Well, welcome everybody. Today is Wednesday, December 11th, and I want to welcome you. This is our planning session for getting a head start on 2020, and I hope that you have paper with you because we're going to do some exercises. And the first exercise we're going to do is a magic wand exercise. So if you really want to get into it, take a pen or a pencil or something around you that looks sort of like a magic wand, and take a big notebook or something that you can write on. And what I would love to have you do is to imagine that this magic wand is giving you the power to ensure that any goal that you write on your piece of paper will automatically come true just because you wrote it. So this is a powerful magic wand. You don't have to do anything other than write the goal down, and it will happen for 2020. And I want you to use that frame of mind to write a list of about 5 to 10 goals that you would love to have magically be accomplished by the end of 2020. But I want you to leave some room on your paper, because for each of these goals, I'm going to be asking you about 5 questions. So you want to be able to take notes around the goals that you wrote. I'm just going to give you maybe 30 seconds to do that. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to sort of flip around my computer and experiment to see if I can see any chats or any questions. Okay, so it seems like people can see the screen okay. Looks like most people that are chatting are all feeling good. If you have any questions, every once in a while I will turn back to this portion so that I can see any chats. All right, I really want to give you time to write your 5 to 10 goals. So wave that magic wand, write them down. I'm just talking to fill up space right now. Now, those of you that are listening to this as a recording, you can pause the exercise. But just for the people that are on live, I'm actually going to be quiet for about a minute, maybe less than a minute, just to see if you're done, to give you some time to write it down. So we're going to have radio silence now for, I figure you've already had about 30 seconds. So I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds. We're going to have radio silence for 30 seconds here, just to give you time to write down these goals. And just because it's nice to have something to fill the silence, keep in mind that this magic wand is giving you the power to ensure that all you have to do is write the goal down and it will happen. So for those of you who just joined, we're doing the exercise that you can see on the screen here. We're writing down some goals. Okay. I'm going to move on. I realize that some of you may not be done, but if you at least have a couple ideas for goals, you can go through this process. We'll send you the recording later of the webinar, and you can go through the process again for some of the other goals. Okay? But now what I want you to do is look at the goals that you wrote. And now we're going to put the magic wand aside, and we're going to consider the possibility. We're going to go back into reality, and we're going to consider the possibility of actually making these goals happen. And so what we really did is we started the exercise by writing a list of potential goals for 2020. And when we had the class this morning, people wrote up to 10 or 20 potential goals on their list. But I found that it got quickly overwhelming to ask all of these questions about such a large list of goals. So I'm going to ask that you have 10 max for this exercise. And you're going to narrow it down ultimately to about 3 when you really decide what your goals for 2020 are going to be. And there's a good reason for that. And that is, if you spread your energy too thin across too many different goals, it's going to be very hard to achieve them. Now, that might be disappointing for some of you who like to accomplish a lot in a given year. So I will caveat that by saying you are welcome to have a lot of goals if you are able to stagger them. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But for now, what I'd like you to do is look at the initial list of potential goals that you wrote down. And now what I'd like you to do is look at each goal and read it and try and consider making it happen in 2020 for yourself. I want you to consider it, but I want you to notice your initial emotional reaction as you consider the goal. So I want you to notice as you're thinking about it, what comes up for you emotionally. Do you have a surge of fear, a surge of frustration, a surge of excitement, or maybe you don't have a surge of anything. Maybe you just have kind of like a mild curiosity, or maybe you just feel neutral about it. But whatever it is you feel, when you think about making that goal happen next year, I want you to write it down. And I also want you to try to catch the initial thoughts that go along with that emotion. And it could be, wow, wouldn't that be amazing if I did this? Or finally I'd be happy. Or, oh, this is going to be such a pain. But see if you can figure out, or if so-and-so would only cooperate, see if you can figure out what those thoughts in your head are when you initially consider accomplishing the goal. Just those initial feelings and initial thoughts as you're considering it. Okay. So I guess I should go backwards here and see before we move on if anyone got stuck there or had any questions or needs more time. So I'm just going to look really quick to see if we have any chats. So, kind of as I'm going through this, feel free to chat something at me, and then I'll sort of flip back and check and see if I have any chats during these times when I'm having you fill out the answers to your questions, because now I know how to do it. There we go. Now we're back on the main screen. I'm sitting here acting like this is novel. There's some of you probably that are veterans at this point. Oh, that's easy. Okay. So I hope you had a chance to write that down. Notice that for each one of your goals. So now we're going to go to the next step, which is why in the world did I write that? Why did I write my initial emotions and my initial thoughts about when I considered the goal? And the reason is that the initial reaction you have kind of from your intuition as you consider accomplishing a goal gives you a lot of information about how easy it will be for you to accomplish that goal. So for some goals, you'll have kind of a mildly positive sense of anticipation, and the thoughts might be, well, this will be fun. I've got this. So, I want you to think about maybe some of the goals that you have that are that. It's usually something that you look at and you're like, oh, I can do this. You sort of are pretty clear that you know how to make this happen, and you kind of feel like you'll be satisfied when you get it done. So you sort of have a lot of confidence as you're considering making it happen. But then for other goals where there's a strong surge of emotion, even if it feels positive, that could be a signal that there's something deeper going on. And I'm going to address that. I just got a chat, so I don't know if any of you, the others of you are having this problem, but I had one person who didn't get the link. So for those of you who are just on audio and you're thinking, gosh, I'd really like to see these slides, the link is https://join.freeconferencecall.com/Nahid, N-A-H-I-D. And hopefully you can get to that by clicking through the email, because sometimes when you just type it in, it's asking you for codes and stuff, and since I'm teaching the class, I'm not going to be able to give you those codes while I'm doing it. So hopefully that will help you, or you can find the email that I sent earlier. There was an email sent out to participants yesterday that might have had the link on it. So, or any email that you've gotten for prior webinars, it's always the same. Okay, so many of you might be curious, and we had a discussion on, oh my gosh, what are these surges of emotions? Why do they matter? Well, typically when you have a surge of emotion, a surge of fear or surge of something like that, of frustration, What that means is there's something deeper going on. And, we all talk about setting SMART goals, specific and measurable and action-based and time-based and realistic and all of that. And the truth is that only for the subset of goals where you're having kind of a mildly positive sense of anticipation and thoughts such as this will be fun or I've got this, will those SMART goals actually work for you. If you've got some surges of emotions, which everybody in the class this morning did for some of your goals, even if it's positive, even if it's a sense of elation, like finally I'll do this, those strong surges of emotion usually are a sign that there's something else there. And usually it's kind of fear, what if I don't do this? And what's usually underneath that is some beliefs and some needs that are deeply emotional that could create obstacles for you if we don't examine them. So it doesn't mean that you can't work on this goal, but it does mean that if you work on this goal without considering that there are probably deeper needs or beliefs that might get in your way, there's a high chance that you'll struggle with it. So we don't want you to struggle with it. We want you to be set up well for 2020. So we want you to know which goals are going to be pretty easy for you to achieve and which goals may have underlying needs and beliefs that you might have to work on. So let's take a look at that. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I use it in lots and lots of my webinars, so I'm sure many of you have seen it many times. And so in general, if we look at this needs pyramid, it represents all of our behavior, what we're motivated to do. So each level of the needs pyramid represents something that we need as human beings to survive and thrive. And pretty much anything that you set as a goal, anything that you want, is going to fit into one of these 5 categories. And it may fit into many of them. It may fit into more than one category because we're efficient, right? So why not choose something that's going to, take care of me in more than one area? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay? So for your goals that involve keeping you healthy, strong, making sure you don't get sick, those are the physiological, biological needs. So some of you may have goals to lose weight, for example. Now, a goal to lose weight might be a physiological, biological goal, or it might be a self-esteem goal, or it might be a love and belonging goal. So think about what you're trying to accomplish by losing weight. Let's say if you have that as a goal. So if you're trying to get healthier so that you prevent pre-onset diabetes, or, if that's your chief concern, then you're working on it from a physiological, biological level. It's like, I want to be healthier, I want to be stronger. If your primary motivation for losing weight is you want to look better to attract other people, then that's going to have more to do with your tribe and more to do with relationships. If your primary reason for losing weight is because you don't want anybody else showing you up at the beach, then it may be more of a how do I look to other people, what's my status. So let's go over some of these levels so you'll kind of get the background on all of them. So anything that you do that's related to kind of making you individually healthier or stronger is going to be in the physiological, biological realm. In the safety shelter realm, those are mostly, for most of us, going to be financial security type goals. So, but it could also be things to do with our what else could make us feel safe? If we're in a dangerous neighborhood, we might want to move to a new neighborhood that feels safer. But for the most part, most people kind of in our society are looking at financial security for safety. So anything that you're doing to kind of get your financial situation straightened out in a way that your financial situation no longer scares you is probably within the safety area. Now, Going after money, the same thing. It could be in the safety shelter category. It could also maybe be in the self-esteem category or even the self-actualization category. So I'll give you some examples there. When it's safety, it's usually about financial security, and once you've gotten enough money to feel kind of calm and secure, you usually stop thinking about money pretty quickly. If it's self-esteem, you're often comparing how much you make to other people within your social group, and it's more than just making enough money to survive. It's also about making enough money to be seen well by your peers. And if it's self-actualization, there's a few people that just love making money for the sake of making money. It's just fun. So, I mean, they're way beyond. These are the people that are often way beyond making enough money to survive, but they're still making money and they're still enjoying making money just because it's fun. Okay, and you could be fit in all of those categories. Love and belonging would be any of your goals related to relationships. Hey, I want to find a husband this year. I want to become a better parent. I want to get more involved in my community, those kinds of goals. And self-esteem will be the goals that make you feel good. So we all have a drive to be competitive within our social circles. We want other people to see us well. So we want to belong to a tribe, but we also want to be seen as high status in that tribe. We want to be valued in that tribe for something. So we don't necessarily have to be at the top of the pecking order, but we want other people in the tribe to value us and respect us in some ways. So some of the goals may have something to do with that. And then when you get to self-actualization, I'm going to call those your values, not your needs. And your values are the things that you do just because they bring you joy and and fulfillment, maybe. Fun, so joy, fun, fulfillment. So that could be go on more hikes, or that could be spend more time with my family, or go on more trips, or maybe some home improvements you want to do to make your home more aesthetically pleasing. So it could be any of that. So I'm going to stop right now and look at the chat box and see if there are any questions I can address. And again, I'm going to keep you all on mute, so it's not going to be necessarily easy, but I'll be reading the questions as I scroll through them, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. So one that I see is, can you explain why both survive and thrive are in the same box on slide 5? And yes. So getting your needs met helps you survive and helps you thrive, right? So if you get a need met only a little bit to survive, then you're surviving. But let's take financial security, right? So the survive part of financial security is I have enough money to make it through the next day, the next week, the next month. It's very short term. I can survive for a little while, right? Thrive means not only can I make it through the next week, but I have a robust retirement savings so that I feel safe that I'm going to be okay my whole life. So I think it's a difference of degree. Let's talk about love and belonging. That's a really important one. There is a crisis in this country right now, actually in the world, but of loneliness and depression. And what we found that human beings need to be in a small community or small tribe to thrive, to feel good, it's built into our biology. And so what's happened is when we lived in small communities and we didn't travel far away from home, we usually had our extended family living near us, or we were very close with our neighbors and our community because we knew them. But as, life changed and people could pretty much live wherever they wanted, there's evidence showing that more and more people are living by themselves, kind of far away from family and friends. Research shows that more and more people, when asked, do you have somebody that you can confide in, are saying, how many people do you have that you can confide in, are saying nobody. And I've also been seeing in my clients a lot this year as I've been exploring things that get into their way, a lot of lack of motivation or just exhaustion or depletion comes from not feeling like you have the support you need, and that support brings you energy, which makes it easier for you to achieve your goals. So when we talk about survive and thrive in the love and belonging area, sure, you can survive in our day and age without a lot of close friends. But if you have more close friends, you're thriving, and that is a need. It's not a value. A value would be something that that you enjoy, like maybe crocheting or reading books or being close to your family as your tribe. But it goes a little bit beyond just surviving and personally thriving. It goes into being really interested in what you're doing and just doing it mainly for fun and to kind of get into flow. And I see it as kind of part of bringing your unique self, kind of engaging with the world in a spirit of curiosity, experimentation, creativity, that sort of thing. So that's my way of looking at it. And my way of looking at it isn't the only way of looking at it. So if you have a different way, feel free. I'm going to kind of scroll up. Oh, look at somebody typed in the access code and the web connection, the web link. And I'm going to read it again just in case. HTTPS www.freeconferencecall.com/wall/Nahid, and then one other / which I cannot see. So hopefully that'll work if you're still having trouble. Okay, any other questions? I do not see them, so I'm going to move back to the slide. But continue to have those questions come in, and I'll switch back again. So this should help you think about your goals in terms of what you're doing to help yourself survive, thrive, and then also bring joy and fulfillment into your life. So I'd like to go kind of again and take a look at your goals and have you ask these other questions. These 5 questions. Number 6 isn't actually a question, it's more of a comment. The first question is, what will it take? So now that you're looking at these goals that you have, what will it take? What will it take to make that goal happen? And how will you need to change? So let's just take weight loss as an example. If I want to change my weight, I know the actions that I have to take. I have to, exercise according to a certain schedule, and I have to change my calorie intake in some way. Lower the calories in, increase the calories burned. But how will I need to change? That's question number 2 here. How I need to change has to do with my relationship with exercise and food. If I hate exercise and I love fattening foods, one of the ways I might need to change to make this goal work is I might need to change my relationship with exercise and change my relationship with food. I might need to find exercise that I really love doing so that I have kind of a love relationship with exercise instead of a hate relationship with exercise. And I may need to change my relationship with food from feeling very, very attached to high-calorie food to feeling less attached to having a lot of high-calorie foods and maybe more attached to healthier alternatives. So I have to change my relationship with food. So thinking about how you need to change to make this goal happen. We had someone in our class that had a goal to bring on more clients in their business, and they felt a lot of fear about this. And so we talked about deeper changes that they would need to make. And one of the changes was how they think about bringing on clients. A lot of people, when they're selling in their business, every time a client says yes, they see that as a reflection on, oh, great, I'm valuable. And every time a client says no, it's, oh my gosh, I'm not valuable. So they would have to change their level of attachment to the outcome of any one sale happening in order to be calmer and more effective and more confident overall in their overall selling practice. So number 3, we just discussed this. What need or value does this goal support? It can be more than one. Number 4 and 5 are really, really important questions, and that is it worth it, and if so, why? So go ahead and answer those questions kind of on your papers as I'm talking here. The reason I'm asking you these questions is my goal is to help you lay the groundwork for 2020. So part of laying the groundwork is thinking, what do I want my goals for 2020 to be? And part of that is choosing goals that really, really matter to you and are worth it to you, because, you know, this is a cliche. People set goals in January for their New Year's resolutions. By February, they've forgotten them. And a lot of the reason that people do that is because it's the goals that they have a lot of emotional energy around. They're very attached to the outcome. There's an unmet need. There might be a negative belief they have about that goal that they can't really achieve it. So they've got a lot of emotion around it. They've got a lot of attachment to the outcome. They've got a lot of meaning they're assigning to it. They have underlying beliefs that they're not capable of achieving it, but they just set the goal because they're only doing it at a surface level. They maybe write out SMART goals, and they may write out a whole plan, and it just never takes off. And they kind of knew it from the beginning that it wouldn't work and it wouldn't take off. So I want to change that dynamic. I want to make sure you're very clear on which goals are just going to take a limited amount of clarity, just kind of writing down what you need to do, and kind of it's a no-brainer for you, and then which goals are the really emotional ones. What I would suggest is, at least at the beginning of the year, if you're going to pick one of those emotional ones, and I do suggest that you pick one of the emotional ones, pick one of them, and then make a commitment to dive deeper with that one. Make a commitment to dive into what's getting in the way personally. What are your beliefs around it? What are the unmet needs? What are the thoughts that come up? How are you attaching maybe your ego or your identity to your success or failure at this goal? And we had a lot of conversation about that in the live session this morning. So what I'm going to do is wrap up the slides and then turn off the recording. And then for those of you that want to talk, we'll actually have we'll have a few minutes to discuss, so you can ask questions and not have the questions be on the recording. Okay. One thing in terms of energy, I think I already mentioned this, but it only makes sense to choose a few goals for the year and one goal to focus on as a priority at a time. For those of you that like lots of goals, you can do sprints, which is focusing on one goal at a time. And that doesn't mean that all the other goals you're not working on. It just means they're on the back burner, and all of your attention and all of your extra energy is focused on the one priority goal. A lot of technology companies do this now. They will sprint on one aspect of a product and get it to completion and then work on something else. And with goal setting, it really works to pick a milestone, sprint towards that milestone, then let up on that goal, put it on the back burner, and then pick another one and sprint and get a sense of accomplishment there. So that's one approach that you can take if you have more than one goal that you want to focus on. And you just can't choose which one to focus on first. You can do short sprints, one goal, then another goal, then another goal, but try not to choose more than a few for the year. So here is something that will make that okay if you're looking at a list of 10 or more goals thinking, I don't want to give up any of these. If you have one of those emotional goals, and if you have like half of your goals are these emotional goals, usually they connect to each other. So if you choose one of them and you do the underlying needs and belief work related to getting rid of some of the obstacles that are getting in the way of getting that goal accomplished, what will happen is all that work will expand out to some of the other goals that maybe you've been struggling with for the same reasons. So that's that. And the question is, okay, so what are the tools to help you do that? And so here are some of the year-end planning tools that I use with everybody. These are all available to the group program members, and some of them are available to you whether you're a group program member or not. So I have an annual year in review exercise. I actually tend to send this out to my entire email list every year around January. So if you're not on the email list and you want that one, what that does is it has you think about, reflect on your past year. And it has you think about what you learned, maybe what mistakes you made, what went well, what didn't go so well. and what do you want to carry forward to the next year. And I've been using this with my clients now for, gosh, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've probably been using this tool for the last 15 years, and I have clients who have done it every single year. I've had a couple clients that have had very painful years, and they said, no, this year I'm not going to do the year in review, and that's perfectly fine. The year in review is a reflective exercise to help you think about what you've learned this year, how things have gone this year, and to kind of make some decisions about, based on that, what do you want to carry forward to the next year. The values-based goal-setting workbook, I had a couple of people go in our morning session go, I don't really know what my core values are. It's really funny. It's hard sometimes to remember what your core values are. And people get values mixed up with principles. You know, I have a principle of integrity. So I call kind of your principles, or the way you want to live life, the way you believe you need to live life. I call those principles. Well, some people might call those values. And I would call values the things that you value. So values are the things that you would spend extra time and money on. And we did do an exercise in the in-person session this morning where we had people imagine that they suddenly had, 3 or 4 days. They had a lot of time, a lot of money, but they couldn't, they couldn't really go anywhere. They didn't have any obligations, but what would they do with that time? And some people said sleep, and some people said clean the house. So then immediately I asked a follow-up question, which is, okay, and then once you got enough sleep, what would you do? Once you got the house clean, what would you do? Because needs are represented by sleep, and needs are represented by things like cleaning the house. These are all the things that you feel like you should do, but you never get to. But I want to make sure that all those things that you feel are shoulds have been gotten to. And then you ask, well, what would you do with your time? And then more interesting stuff came out with people. Most people wanted to spend time with family or close friends. Most people had some hobby or something that they really enjoy doing that they wanted to do, and that immediately told them what their values were. So someone said, oh, I would have a hike scheduled every day, and that clearly showed up in her value for being in nature. Somebody else said, I would do yoga every day, and she loves yoga, and it really puts her in a spiritual place. Somebody said, oh, yeah, if everyone was taken care of, I would learn something, and I've known this person for a long time, and he absolutely loves learning, and he's always learning new things. So your values come out really quickly when you imagine any kind of scenario where you have sort of a lot of extra time, a lot of extra money. What you would do with your extra time and money is generally represented by what you value. Okay? So the values-based goal-setting workbook I did back in 2010 for the year going from 2010 to 2011. So if you can get past the dates on that, it's about a 7 or 8 page book that helps you walk through, thinking through and identifying some of your core values and lining those up with your goals. If you want the year in review or the values-based goal-setting workbook, you can just send me an email and I'm happy to send them to you. Then I have this thing called the Working Business Plan. The Working Business Plan is a way that I work with my business owner clients to create a business plan that's dynamic and it works with you. So it's not like you spend a lot of time and effort doing a 10-page beautiful business plan that you're going to give to a bank or a venture firm. It's not that kind of a business plan. It's a business plan that's always in draft format and takes into consideration the fact that you are always learning new things every day. You have new situations come up every day, and that those things tend to change your priorities and your focus. So what this working business plan does is it gives you a framework to revisit every month or every week if you want, or every quarter, just sort of depending on your own rhythm. And it exists to help you stay focused on your most important goals in your business. And then I have a slash here, any plan, because you can use the same type of evolving dynamic plan as a career plan if you don't run your own business, or as a life plan. It doesn't only have to be used as a business plan. I just happen to use it mostly as a business plan. We talked about our depression epidemic, our loneliness epidemic, because human beings are getting scattered and they're finding it harder and harder to get into tribes. And if you're not very proactive about it, you find that it's it's very easy to slip into a situation where you don't have a lot of close relationships. Well, just noticing how important that is, I've decided to create a relationship building planner that really helps people build their relationships proactively and tighten their tribes. This has not been done yet, so you can't email me for this yet. But when it's done, I'll probably announce it. The productivity tools workbook, I spent all Monday of this week doing the draft of it. So this will be out. This will come to anyone who's on my email list in January. So none of these things, these particular tools, do you have to be part of the group program to go into. But for group program members, for those of you that are in the group program, we're going to be having 4 calls. I call them year in review calls, but we're not going to just use those to go over the year in review. We're going to use those to coach you around any of these tools that you're using to come up with your goals and your plan for 2020. So we have 2 calls next week on Tuesday and Friday, and then either the first or second week in January, somewhere in there, I have 2 calls on Tuesday and Friday, one on Tuesday, one on Friday for the following week. You can come to all 4 if you want, or you can come to one of them, but we'll just take whoever's on the call and we'll go through wherever you're at, whichever tool you used, where you're struggling. So those will be very custom and personal to whoever's on the call. So for those of you who are going, well, what's the group program and what's going on with that? So the group program is a program that I run, and it's just a monthly program, and it includes a lot of phone calls and email support, and this is what we're going to be doing. So for those of you in the group program, this is what we're going to be doing starting now to 2020. For the group coaching calls, I'm going to experiment with a new time slot on Tuesdays. So 3 Tuesdays and 3 Fridays, I run group calls. And if you're in the group program, you can now come to any one of those calls. You don't have to be assigned to a specific call. On Tuesdays, we're going to change the time slot to 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific time, which is 3:30 to 4:30 Eastern. I'm hoping that time slot will work better for people, so I'm going to experiment with that for the first quarter and see how people respond to it. But the Friday calls have always been popular at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. On Tuesdays, we'll be doing business and leadership coaching, and we'll be doing transitions. We'll be talking about transition and change. On Fridays, we'll be doing personal growth, mentor and coach training, and relationships and people issues. So that'll be our general template for our group programs. We're also going to have online programs, and for all of you in the group program, you'll have access to these online programs when we launch them. There's 2 I'm focusing on for 2020. For our accelerated growth program, we ran it once 2 years ago. We ran it once this year. Next year, what I've noticed from that accelerated growth program is that people get to a certain point in it where they have their puzzle, and for those of you that have done it, you know what I mean by that. You've got your puzzle, but then and you've identified the belief that you need to change from a scarcity belief to an abundance belief, but it slips away. We keep forgetting it. So we're gonna do something with belief systems, creating tools to really track people through changing beliefs, learning new beliefs, facilitating that learning proactively. So you're basically going to be retraining your brain, and we're going to be working on how to do that. So I'll probably have a bunch of classes all in a row dedicated to reworking your belief systems for those people in the group program who are interested in that. And then another program I'll be creating and probably launching between March and May, depending on how quickly I get to it, will be an emerging leader and high potentials program. So that will be for people. You don't have to be a leader now, but if you want to become a leader, these are the key skills you need to be working on. So you're developing all those skills, and it's also for people who want to go, leaders who want to go back to basics. So those will be the 2 online programs that are going on next year. Locally, we still have our Wednesday morning sessions at Webster for those of you that are local to South Orange County, and we have a self-discovery group that we run monthly. We have a business leaders mastermind that I do sometimes, and then sometimes I don't do. It just depends on who I have in the group. And then usually I do one East Coast retreat for those of you on the East Coast. So So we can all get together in person and do work together on, and also have a West Coast retreat per year for everyone in the group. And then other perks, so you get discounted rates. We're going to do little packages this time, so people can buy little packages of a few hours of coaching time that you can use whenever you need it. And then you also have unlimited access to library and email support, including weekly progress reports. So what I'm going to do now, anyone who is not in the group program who's interested, you can just email me and we can call and talk about that. But for the rest of you, that's what's going on in the program, so you can sort of wrap your brain around it. And all group program members will get a free session in January where we'll actually sit together or on the phone and we'll go over your goals. Okay, so I've got one person that requested the values-based goal setting workbook, and I don't have any chats from anyone else. I'm just going to scroll here, see if there are any other chats or questions that you want me to answer online, and then I'm going to unmute, and we're going to stop the recording. All right. So let's stop the recording. So for those of you who are listening to the recording, goodbye, and hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you should welcome to reach out.